The sound of thunder rolled through the quiet morning streets, not from the sky, but from engines. 250 bikers roared in perfect unison, their leather jackets glinting in the sunlight, each one carrying an emblem stitched on the back that read B.A.C.A, Bikers Against Child Abuse. The hospital staff standing at the entrance froze in disbelief as the convoy surrounded St. Mary's Hospital. Inside, a scared little girl named Lily clutched a purple stuffed elephant and whispered to herself, "Please, don't let him find me." Before we go any further, if you believe in kindness, courage, and second chances, take a second to like, share, and subscribe. Your small click spreads stories that remind the world there is still good out there. Lily was only 8 years old, but she had seen more darkness than most people face in a lifetime. Her stepfather, a man the neighbors once called charming, was a monster behind closed doors. Every night, he would yell, break things, and sometimes worse. Her mother tried to protect her, but fear kept her trapped in silence. One night, after a particularly violent outburst, Lily ran to the neighbor's barefoot and, trembling, holding her torn stuffed elephant and whispering, "Please don't send me back." That moment changed everything. The police were called, and Lily was taken to a safe house. Her stepfather was arrested but released on bail within a week. And that's when things got terrifying. He started showing up near her school, calling her mother from unknown numbers, and threatening to finish what he started. Lily was then moved to St. Mary's Hospital for protection and therapy after an emotional breakdown. But word got out. He knew where she was. When the local police realized the threat was real, they increased patrols around the hospital. But deep down, they knew they couldn't be there 24/7. That's when a nurse named Maggie, who had once been helped by the biker group Bikers Against Child Abuse, B.A.C.A, years ago, made a call that would change everything. The next morning at dawn, the streets began to vibrate. The sound was unmistakable. Hundreds of motorcycles rumbling toward the hospital. Patients looked out from their windows. Doctors peeked through blinds. Even the local news station showed up, not sure what was happening. Then they saw them. Rows of bikers standing shoulder to shoulder, eyes sharp, arms crossed, vests patched with the emblem of protection and brotherhood. At the center of them stood a tall, bearded man with kind but fierce eyes. His name was Hawk. He had been with B.A.C.A for over 15 years. Once upon a time, he too had been a broken child. Now he made sure no other kid would ever face that fear alone. Hawk walked into the hospital quietly, asked for Nurse Maggie, and said, "We heard a little angel needs us." Inside Lily's room, the air was heavy with fear. She sat curled on her bed, staring at the door, afraid that at any moment her stepfather would burst through. When Hawk walked in, his large frame filled the doorway. For a moment, Lily flinched, but then she saw the gentle smile beneath, his beard and the small, bright patch on his vest that said Guardian. He knelt beside her and said softly, "Hey there, sweetheart. You see all those bikes outside? They're here for you." She blinked, unsure she heard right. "For me?" she whispered. "For you," Hawk nodded. "No one, and I mean no one, is gonna hurt you again." For the first time in weeks, Lily's eyes softened. She reached out, still trembling, and handed him her purple stuffed elephant. "His name's Mr. Floppy," she said quietly. Hawk smiled and tucked the toy gently in her arm. "Then Mr. Floppy's on our team too." The bikers formed a protective wall around the hospital for the next 72 hours. They didn't sleep much, taking shifts through the night, parked in neat rows outside every exit and entrance. The hospital staff started bringing them coffee and food, and soon the tension in the air turned into something else: respect. Everyone could feel it, the energy of safety, the unspoken message that this child was no longer alone. But the real test came on the second night. Around 2 a.m., a dark SUV stopped near the hospital's east entrance. The man inside stepped out, wearing a hood and glancing nervously around. He didn't get far. Before he could take more than a few steps toward the doors, 3 bikers approached silently from the shadows, their boots echoing on the pavement. Hawk was among them. He didn't raise his voice, didn't make a scene. He simply stood there, his presence enough to make the man freeze. "You need to leave," Hawk said, his voice calm but cold. Now, the stepfather muttered something under his breath about his family, but Hawk stepped closer, eyes unblinking. "Not anymore," he said. "She's our family now." The man backed away, shaking, and ran to his car. Minutes later, police sirens blared in the distance. The bikers stood their ground until the squad cars arrived and took him away. And when the hospital staff heard what happened, they didn't know whether to cry or cheer. The next morning, news cameras gathered outside. They called it the Ride of Protection. One reporter asked Hawk why they had come in such numbers. He simply said, because no child should ever feel afraid. Not while we're around. Inside the hospital, Lily woke up to see hundreds of bikers standing outside her window, some waving, some giving a thumbs up. She smiled for the first time in months. Nurse Maggie brought her breakfast and Lily whispered, "Can I go see them?" Minutes later, she was outside, wearing her hospital gown, holding Mr. Floppy in her arms. The bikers parted quietly as Hawk stepped forward, kneeling down. "Morning, Princess," he said gently. Lily hugged him tightly and whispered, "You came for me." Hawk's eyes glistened, and he replied, "Always." As the sun rose higher, Hawk lifted her into his arms and turned toward the group. The roar of the engines started again, but this time it wasn't just noise, it was a promise. The 250 bikers revved their engines in unity, a sound that echoed through the town and deep into the hearts of everyone who heard it. It was the sound of protection, brotherhood, and love. Days turned into weeks. Lily was placed in a new home with her aunt and began therapy. Every now and then, a familiar rumble would roll through her street, Hawk, and a few bikers dropping by on their motorcycles just to check in. They never missed her birthday, never forgot her drawings, and always made her feel safe. The hospital staff said they'd never seen a transformation like hers. The once silent little girl who clung to a stuffed elephant now laughed again, danced in her new home, and told everyone about her angels on wheels. Months later, Hawk received a letter in the mail. The handwriting was shaky but full of heart. It read, "Thank you for being my hero. I don't have nightmares anymore. I sleep with Mr. Floppy every night, and I'm not scared because I know you're out there somewhere, protecting other kids like me. Love, Lily." Hawk folded the letter carefully, slipped it into his leather vest pocket, and looked up at the framed photo of the bikers taken that day at the hospital. He smiled through teary eyes and whispered, "Ride safe, little one." Then he put on his helmet and revved his engine, ready for the next call, because somewhere another child might need them. The story of the 250 bikers spread across the country, inspiring countless others. Donations poured into child protection groups, and many people who had once feared. Bikers began to see them differently, not as outlaws, but as guardians. And though Lily never saw Hawk again, she always remembered that day, the thunder of the engines, the warmth of strong arms carrying her out of fear, and the sea of leather-clad protectors who stood between her and danger. It became the day she stopped being a victim and started believing in heroes again. So the next time you see a biker on the road, remember, behind the tattoos and the engines might beat the heart of someone who would risk everything to protect a child they've never met. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe, because every act of kindness deserves to be heard, and every voice of compassion deserves to echo far and wide. Special request, tell us in the comments, what did this story make you feel? Would you stand up for someone who couldn't protect themselves? Because sometimes it only takes one brave act to change a life forever.